another one, you bastard!
Brought to you by supporters who probably have better taste than this schmuck.
So you want to ask me what the best Legion lineup is when it comes to the Legion and Legends class figures overall? I can tell you super easily. It's Robots in Disguise 2015. That line had so much creativity in it, and so few misses. I can think of one truly bad figure in that whole line. The rest were absolute bangers. Hasbro and Takara were pumping out hit after hit after hit. It may not be my favorite aesthetic in Transformers, but goddamn, I loved all of those Legion figures. However, such wasn't always the case. When certain figures were announced, I initially got pretty cynical. The old version of me wasn't as well versed in the way the franchise operates. I didn't know about budgets, I didn't know about design problems, I didn't know about anything, really. And as such, when they announced Robots in Disguise Legion class Windblade, I complained quite a bit. And it was pretty stupid, because I compared this to the Iron Factory version. Yes, because that makes a lot of sense, because comparing a $10 Legion to a $50 Legends figure, that totally makes sense. And even in the original video I did on this, I acknowledged such, and I acknowledged that this was a fantastic figure, but that was a pretty old video. So I think I should remake that video. Although I don't think it's that well suited for a full review. So instead of doing a second opinion on this figure, I'm just gonna do a Legendary one. I know this is kind of weird, but it's my show and I can do whatever I want. Now, most people constantly complain about one key thing with this, the robot mode. And yes, I'm not going to deny that the robot mode on this version of Windblade is compromised because it's a Legion figure. I guess I have to hold up the sign again for that. But I make no delusions. It's a compromised robot mode, but no one ever talks about this vehicle mode. It's never brought up. People always complain about the robot mode whilst refusing to acknowledge that this vehicle mode is great. Like, you take a look at this. It's aerodynamic as f***, has a reasonable amount of paint, has a lot of detail for what it is. Just, it's lunacy. This is probably one of the best Windblade jet modes on the market. And yes, that is by default, because what's it competing against? The nose cone is lovely. You've got lots and lots of paint on show. 3 bits of black all around here, and the hinge actually looks like it blends in with all of that as well. Wonderful use of existing tooling to make it look better. The wings are also magnificent. Not a lot of mechanical detailing on them, but that's because they've already got these bits up here and these kind of bits here. This stuff here doesn't do anything, but it's nice detail that's part of the original model, so they added that in. And wonderful gun metal on the turbines over here. Of course, they don't swivel, but they shouldn't swivel on a figure this size. It's a $10 Legends figure. What are you gonna do? Of course, you've got some ports under here for swords or anything that she might have, but she doesn't come with anything. There's no accessories with this figure, and that's perfectly fine. I really love the extra detail, the spikes here that swish backwards. It's such a cool design, and I wish other Windblades would use that. The back is super clean as well. A lot of Windblades have a lot of problems with the back here, but they kind of use the fact that it's a Legends figure to its advantage and kind of slim things out. Yes, you've got the fists visible there, but honestly, who cares? And the feet aren't that visible at the back either, and you've got a nice turbine there. Honestly, it is a wonderful, wonderful vehicle mode, and one that I feel a lot of people overlooked when the line first came out, but that's kind of true of all Robots in Disguise Legion figures. They're criminally underrated, and some of the best Legion figures that we've ever gotten, and I'll die on that hill. I'll die on it. In fact, forgive me for being blasphemous, but I think this vehicle mode is ever so slightly better than the Iron Factory version. Like, in robot mode, don't get me wrong, no contest, and this one still has the better paint, but in terms of proportions, I think this knocks it out of the park. It doesn't do as much, but it just looks more like a plane than this thing. And of course, some leeway has to be given to this. This is literally the, what, the second or third figure Iron Factory ever put out? Whereas this is how many years after Hasbro started doing these Legion figures? But it just goes to show they've done things with this figure that many people just did not give any notice to. There's a lot that was just overshadowed at the time, and I really feel this Windblade deserves a better look. Of course, in order to take another look, first we need to go through some size comparisons, like with a standard Legion figure, which is a bit reductive because this is a standard Legion figure, but you get the point. Anywho, we've also got a standard core class figure, a standard War for Cybertron Micromaster, and Crumbs. And of course, to finish it off with a quick sizing, she is 7.7 centimeters by 8 centimeters. Of course, the transformation is dead simple because it's a Legion figure, then what do you expect? You come to the bottom and the entire robot mode is under there. No, I'm not going to consider that a slight against the alt mode. It retailed for $10, so there's not really much you can do there. Anyway, the arms are tabbed into the slots on the side of the hip ball joints, so they just kind of move up and lock into place nice and solidly. Good that there's actually locking places here, so when I complain other figures don't have them, it goes to show that it's pretty easy, even on a figure of this size. Nose cone just untabs, moves back, rotates back on the double hinge, doesn't peg in, but doesn't really need to. And the legs separate, like so. You can also bend them so they're not bending backwards like chicken legs. Does the job. Now, yes, you can see before you this is a compromised figure. It is compromised because of the size, it's compromised because of the character design that's really hard to do. It is not going to be the perfect Windblade by any means, but I still think it does a really good job for the size. I mean, compared to most Legion figures, the proportions are damn good here. She also stands incredibly well thanks to this big stabilizer at the back here acting as heel support, something that even the deluxe versions aren't able to do a lot of the time. Proportions are great, the paint is decent, what more could you want? Now, full disclosure, this turbine here did used to have one of those QR codes. Turns out you can just peel it off and there's full detailing underneath it. Not all Legion class figures do that, but this one's a good one that you can do it. But you will probably need to take that off because it looks ugly with it on there. I don't even think the game's running anymore. Jesus, QR codes on Transformers is a terrible idea, but please don't ever do that again, Hasbro. Now, the biggest complaint a lot of people have is the face. They claim it looks like a beaver, and I do not mean in the euphemism sense. Looks like an actual beaver with kind of weird teeth. And in a sense it does, but a couple of things. One, there is a lot of paint on the face just by virtue of being Windblade design. You got blue eyes, you got a white face, you got gunmetal on the kind of hair thing around it, and they've also painted the fan at the back there that sits in the back there, following the geisha design. That's a lot of paint for a small figure, and this isn't the Takara version, this is the regular off-the-shelf Hasbro version. And they're not sacrificing it anywhere else. The vehicle mode still got paint, you still got blue and gunmetal on the chest, and you got blue on the knees and gunmetal on the feet there. They're not skimping in any way. Oh, and gunmetal on the turbines, yeah, I forgot about that. So there's a lot of paint, and it doesn't take away from the rest of the body like a lot of Windblades do. And second, a lot of reviews tend to hold it up really close to the camera, so a lot of the imperfections are very easily noticed. But in person, it's more like this. It is a tiny figure, so you're not really going to see that detail unless you bring it up really close. So a lot of those people saying, oh, it's this terrible, it's that terrible, well, they're kind of missing the point here. It's a Legends figure, a Legion figure, a tiny one, even in the lineup. So a lot of leeway has to be given, and the fact that they were able to pull it off this well at the size is really commendable. And sure, obviously the Iron Factory version looks infinitely better, no doubt about it. And yes, they were released around the same time, but that was $30 back in the day, and it probably would have been $40 or $50 now. So comparing these two, not really valid. Yes, this does look better in robot mode, but again, this has the better vehicle mode, so there is merit here too. And this is a $10 Windblade. It'll do you just fine if you're trying to come up with a Legion collection. It's got great paint, great proportions in both modes, great detail. Honestly, I don't see many issues with it. The only one part where it sacrifices certain things is the articulation. There is no shoulder articulation, they barely move out, that's about it. You do have ball jointed elbows, but they don't go out because the socket's there and the ball's there, but it does offer a little bit of rotation, although sadly there's no sword to go with it. I'm sure someone could print a sword. The legs are pretty good though. You've got a ball joint at the hip and a knee bend. It doesn't quite go 90 degrees, but it gets the job done. Not a lot of Legion figures have knee bends, so that's nice to have, especially considering it's not even part of the transformation. They just chose to add it in there for the sake of articulation, which is very good. And again, a lot of this is really impressive for the size. Like, we're only really dealing with a figure that's just shy of 7 centimeters tall. Actually, yeah, that's 7 centimeters tall, pretty much 7 centimeters tall. The width is pretty big though, with 8.5 centimeters because of the wings, but you know, that doesn't really count. They're just wings. Anywho, here's a size comparison with a standard Legion figure, and you can see that even in comparison to that, she is petite. The fact they're able to pull off that body type with minimal faults at such a small scale is really commendable. Anywho, here she is next to a standard core class figure, a standard War for Cybertron Micromaster, and Crumbs. So all in all, without a doubt, one of the most underrated figures in the Robots in Disguise Legion lineup. I really have to do more of these because there is so much good within the lineup. It was a brilliant line that many people don't talk about because it's Robots in Disguise 2015, and who cares about that? Well, I care about that, and I will continue to care about that. you. Windblade is a really hard character to get right, and honestly, for the price, I think they've nailed it. The color breakup is pretty good, the proportions are pretty good, yes, the articulation suffers in the shoulders, but I can hold up the sign in this instance and it's perfectly valid. The alt mode is pretty damn good too. Often a lot of jet transformers of this size have problems in the alt mode, but not this one. This one's pretty clean on the underside, it looks pretty clean in terms of its proportions. Not a lot of jank sitting out on the sides, it's just an all-around great Legion figure. If you're a Windblade fan and you can't find the Iron Factory version, this is definitely a decent pickup. Looks great on the shelf, is a nice desk toy. Honestly, there's not really much I can say with this in terms of criticisms. And of course, I'm of the mind that back in the day, the criticisms for this fellow were greatly exaggerated. Oh no, the face looks bad. Do you realize how tiny this thing is? Oh no, the shoulders don't work. Do you realize how tiny this thing is? There's really only so much you can do with it, and the fact they managed to make this work at all is commendable. So yeah, brilliant little Legion figure. What can I say, and what did I expect from the RID Legion class? They did a fantastic job from start to finish, and this is just another figure that shows that. But tomorrow we're going to discuss a line that didn't exactly start out the best, and certainly didn't end the best. But it didn't start out the worst either. It was definitely a weird run overall. Tomorrow we've got a brand new full review coming out, tackling a second opinion that I've wanted to get done for a very long time. We're doing Micromasters, baby. It's my element, and I hope to see you there.